Topic is welcome home. Welcome home. Jesus had become wildly popular amongst the regular people of the day, and the religious leaders were not happy at all. Even the dreaded tax collectors and the people who had lost their way in life or who had missed their calling were coming out in droves to listen to this person called the Christ. And Jesus is doing everything in his power to guide them home, not to a place, but to a place of the heart. And Jesus would teach in terms of the common that the common man could easily understand. And he would, like a good host, he would accept people that the world had thrown away, as well as those who had seemingly thrown away their own life. And you're going to see that there's always an opposing force who likes things the way that they are. And they like the orderly control of the damned, the disenfranchised, and will do anything to maintain the status quo. And in this record, we're going to see something lost, something found, the diligent search, and the joy upon recovery. And it's all under the watchful and judgmental eye of the opposition. So I ask, do you feel like you've lost your way or have gotten just a wee little bit off track? If so, watch how skillfully Jesus uses three short examples, one after the other, in order to shut the mouths of the judgmental long enough to welcome home those who have lost their way. So let's welcome home the lost sheep, the lost coin, and the lost child. And maybe you'll even see yourself in one of these illustrations. When I was 16 years old, I quit high school and left home. I couch surfed and traveled for the better part of a year. I got introduced to worse and worse and worse people. And the longer I stayed away wasn't the better things got. And most men that I knew carried guns, and they had rolls, wads of money. And I knew that they were bad boys, but they were fun, yet dangerous. And it was the first time in my life that I'd ever felt vulnerable. And one night while at a party, I turned on to God. And I really don't exactly even know why. And I'm not sure how it happened, but I left the crowd. I went home to my parents' house, which I hadn't been in a year, and I sat down on the couch and I opened a Bible and I started reading. And the next day, at supper, my parents just simply set another place for me. They didn't ask any questions. They didn't afford any judgment. There was no condemnation, and I knew that I had found my way home. And to finish it, I did go back to high school and went to college, and so I got to give the disclaimer there. But Luke 15 is the only place we're going to be today. And I'm going to read it from the King James because a lot of us are more familiar with that in this record, and I think it's simple enough and it'll resonate. So we're going to read verse 1 through 32. Verse 1. Then drew near unto him all the publicans and sinners for to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes murmured, saying, This man receiveth sinners and eateth with them. This interchange took place a short time before Jesus headed back down to Jerusalem and through Jericho to be captured, questioned, beat, and killed. So this was like just a week or a few weeks before his crucifixion. And first off, it's interesting that there were three specific groups mentioned. One, the publicans and sinners. Two, the Pharisees and scribes. And three, the Christ. And as you read these records, remember the audience, or it's not really going to make sense. you will have heard this taught a different way than I'm going to teach it today. This is designed to be taught as a 3-part section, one teaching, and it's also designed to really shut the mouths of the judgmental and bring people back home. That's it. And so I call group 1 the lost. Group 1, the sinners and such, the lost. Group 2, the Pharisees and scribes, they're the really lost. And then 3, the one who knows the way home, which is the Christ, the truth, the light, the love, the word. And a lost person is someone who knows they've gotten off track in life. You know when you're lost. When you're driving around in that strange city, you know you're lost. You might tell your wife you know where you are, but you don't. You know it. And so you've gotten off track and you're heading in a direction you're never designed to go. A really lost person is someone who's gone off track for so long that they think they're absolutely on the right path. And they're going to do anything to defend their position and their decisions. They think they're right, but they're totally wrong. And I need to take a moment to define a couple of terms so that we can understand this motley crew, this heterogeneous group, this diverse crowd, to get a clearer grasp of the intended lesson. So the lost, we'll explain that. The lost, a publican, what we heard, is a tax collector. And it's somebody who worked for the enemy of Israel, the Romans, the Roman Empire. And the Romans at that time occupied Israel and had for 100 years. And they needed a steady source of income to help build the roads for their war machine. They were going to continue to head east. They'd already taken over pretty much all of the land around the Mediterranean, and they were going to keep going if they could. And they had to build roads for the war machine, money to support their troops, cash to build aqueducts, public buildings, and stadiums for their entertainment. These were very important things to the Romans, and very common things for the people of Israel, because they'd already seen this stuff in play for almost 100 years. And the Romans thought it distasteful to collect taxes. So they outsourced the task to local entrepreneurs. And they put the job out for bid, and the highest bidder, the guy who said he'd bring in the most money for the Romans, was allowed to be a publican. And the tax collector was under contract to give the Romans a predetermined amount of money. So anything over and above that amount was theirs to keep. You owe $10, I take 12. I give Rome 10. I keep 2. And the tax collectors were legally sanctioned thieves backed by the Romans. And they were hated by their own people. Viciously hated by their own people. And they were to be avoided at all costs in society. And by the way, they were usually rich too. So they had power. Yet, they should be avoided. And the sinner is simply somebody who's missed their calling. And the Greek word for sin simply means to miss the mark. That's all the word sin means. You know, you can religious it all up if you want. You can put a big hairdo on it and a shiny suit. It still means you just missed the mark. And a sinner is somebody who's off track in life. And in this case, someone who knows they are. Now they're really lost. The Pharisees and scribes are religious leaders, and they're trained to be of service to the people, but at some point, because of pride, because of public opinion, because of what the other religious people thought, they get so far off track that they think they're on the right road. And if people don't fit into their box, they attack them with all prejudice. Now let's look at these 3 records that are going to take us home. And remember, keep in mind who the audience is. Audience is these sinners, tax collectors, Pharisees, and scribes. That's it. That's the audience that Jesus is talking to here. And every one of these is meant, it's going to build one point to the next point to the third point, which will bring us all home. So here we are, the lost sheep, 100 to 1. 100 to 1. Now remember, Jesus is talking to the lost and the really lost. Verse 3, and he spake this parable unto them, saying, what man of you, having 100 sheep, if he lose one of them, doth not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after that which is lost, until he find it? And when he'd found it, he laid it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he cometh home, he gathereth together his friends and neighbors, saying unto them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. I say unto you, that likewise joy shall be in heaven over one sinner that repenteth, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance. See, this first example sets the stage. It separates the ones who know that they're lost from the ones who don't think they're lost. I ask you, do you rejoice when somebody turns their life around, even if they seem different than you? Or do you need them to fit into your religious box? You know, this first example just differentiates the sheep. It shows the love of the shepherd, and it shows the utter and expansive joy when a person finds their way home. It also shows how the religious do not even think they need to reconsider or to recalculate their way. See, if you look back at that one verse where it says, more than over 99 just persons which need no repentance, he's throwing that in the face of these Pharisees and scribes. In other words, you know, you're like the 99 who don't think you need anything. You don't need to consider your way. Now the lost coin. This is example 2. Now we're bringing down 10 to 1. The second example breaks it down even further. It's like putting a 10-power microscope on the situation he just talked about. We're going to see how this builds. And Jesus is still talking to the myopic, ultra-religious, and super judgmental Pharisees and scribes. Now, not all Pharisees and scribes were bad, but these people were. And the 10 pieces of silver were a common wedding gift. And to lose one of the 10 pieces of silver would be like losing your diamond wedding ring. And both would be devastating to the lady. In fact, I looked up online, lost wedding ring. There's hundreds of records of people finding it. It's like a huge thing. And all the stories are fun. So I just chose one. And this was a woman named Brenda. And she'd lost her wedding band 41 years ago while she was gardening in her backyard in the UK. And she and her husband Dave searched high and low for that ring week after week and never could find it. And so her husband ended up replacing the 9-carat ring. And 4 decades later, Dave saw his neighbor holding this device that turned out to be a metal detector. And he asked him to come on over to his house and just try, and he was going to look one more time. This is 41 years later. And this neighbor, beep, 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 found the ring. Found the ring. After 4 decades of searching and wondering, Brenda was once again reunited with her original wedding ring. Think she was happy? You think that ever left their mind when they gardened in that garden? Every time they went out there, that was there. That's a lost soul. to God and to somebody who cares. You're never off God's mind. And no matter the path you've chosen, you are never forgotten. And the audience is still the religious and the loose. Religious and the loose. Verse 8, whether what woman having 10 pieces of silver, if she lose one piece, doth not light a candle, and sweep the house, and seek diligently till she find it? And when she hath found it, she calleth her friends and her neighbors together, saying, rejoice with me, for I found the piece which I had lost. Likewise, I say unto you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner that repenteth. Now the word repenteth is there again, the second time. Repenteth means it's like your GPS recalculating. You get off track, and what does it do? It recalculates. You see it doing some things, and then pretty soon it gives you a new route. That's what repentance means. It's just to recalculate. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I heading in this direction? That's all repentance means. It's not getting on your knees and tears streaming down your face and, you get the point. Now, this can be taken in two ways, and there's going to be something here that I think might shock you a little bit. See, one, you can take it one way, that the lost person is found or finds their way home and once again, is reunited, and the angels in heaven rejoice. And that's how people teach it. That's not what it's saying. Look closer. In fact, look 10 times closer at this. This is the point. And you're going to notice when it says there is joy in the presence of the angels. It never says the angels rejoiced. These angels are in the presence of joy, but they don't participate in the joy. Now remember, this is again a verbal jab at those Pharisees and scribes, the religious Gestapo, who think of themselves as the warrior angels of God, sent to keep people in line. They aren't rejoicing. They aren't participating. They're watching because they want to control. See, Jesus was throwing it back in their face. They thought they thought they're like the angels of God, but they're just watching. They're not participating in the joy. It's not the other way around. And did you know that, like I said, the word repenteth, we talked about that. And but one thing I want to say is you are noticed. You have been located. You can run, but you can't hide. There's nowhere that GPS of God cannot find you. No matter how bad you've made your life, or what divergent path that you may have gone on, it just doesn't matter. You still have been located. That's the point of this. And no matter what they say, it doesn't matter. You have been found. Your life is designed to cause joy. Not just in heaven, but for the people who care. So there's two. That's the second one. Now we're going to go to the lost child. So we had the lost sheep, the lost coin, and now the lost child. And this is one-to-one. This is, what do they call it? Mano a mano. This is one-on-one. There's no hiding from this one anymore. So he went from the sheep, then he went to the coin, and he talked about the angels. You think you don't need repentance on the first one? You think you're like the angels, and you're just watching. You don't even take joy in this. And now this third one. Watch how he brings this thing home. Jesus has all their attention now. The judgmental ones knew that he was talking directly to them. And they were fully aware he was exposing their game. And they were getting a little heebie-jeebie-ish. And this third part of the lesson puts it all together and takes the message home. It even invites the really, really lost ones, the ones who fool themselves into thinking that they're home, to come back home. God even cares about them. He's got their coordinates. He knows their location too. They're loved too. Verse 11, and he said, a certain man had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of goods that falleth to me. And he divided unto them his living. And this seems uncommon for you to ask for your inheritance before the parent dies. Why would a parent fulfill this request knowing that his wild child of a son was going to blow it all? I think it's amazing what we parents do for our children. It baffles our friends. It perplexes our judgmental friends. And they don't like it. But it's not their life. It's your life. It's your child. See, notice that the dad was distributed his inheritance to both sons. It wasn't just the one son who went off. Both the kids got their money at that point. Because the dad was what? Fair. He's fair. Plus, he loves both his kids. It also shows that too. He didn't just give the one to the one who wanted to party hardy. And verse 13, not many days after the younger son gathered all together and took his journey into a far country, and there wasted his substance with riotous living. This kid cashed in all his stocks. And he packed his things, had a fat wallet, and he went as far from home as he possibly could get. And he went hog wild. He blew all his money and lost everything. And as the idiom says, a fool and his money are soon parted. This kid was foolish. Verse 14, and when he had spent all, there arose a mighty famine in the land, and he began to be in want. To add insult to injury, he's a long way from home. He has no money now, and now the land is in famine. What to do? What to do? And so things went from bad to worse. Now he'd not only lost everything, now he was alone in a strange land. And the land had a famine. And when the pressure's on, when push comes to shove, families tend to circle up and they concentrate on their own. Are they usually going to take in strangers in times of great distress? No. A famine? It isn't like today where we have great government stores and you run out of money, you can go get on some program and they're going to give you food and money. It wasn't like that then. You didn't have food and money, you died. The lost boy was in a bad, bad place. Verse 15, and he went and joined himself to a citizen of that country, and he sent him into the fields to feed swine. You got to think about this. Now remember the audience again. The word joined himself does not mean he simply found a job. Hey, sir, I'm really broke. Can you give me a job? Because I'm really hungry. The word joined means he forced himself upon this citizen. He was unwanted and he was treated poorly. And have you ever seen a kid who so desperately wanted to be part of a certain group at school, and that group or that crowd didn't want them, but they just keep forcing themselves on and then pretty soon they become the fool of that group, don't they? They look stupid. And do people play tricks on them? Yeah. You see, they get treated like dirt. They're put down. They have to do dumb things to make them look like fools. And everybody laughs at them, but they don't care because they want to be a part of that group. That's this kid now. It's sad. The implosion of a soul, of a life. He's a laughing stock. He's a joke. Where do you fit? Where's your pack? Where's your flock? Where's your team? Where's your family, your real family, where you fit and are loved and are vibrant and where people rejoice at your accomplishments and help you through your tough times? Where do you really fit? Verse 16, and he would fain have filled his belly with the husks that the swine did eat, and no man gave to him. See, this pig-owning guy knew this lost boy was a Jew. Jews looked a certain way. They had facial hair. They had certain clothes. You didn't have multiple changes of clothes. He looked like a Jew. I was hiking the other day. I was doing my last training run. And on the way down, I saw these guys in long slacks and button-up shirts, buttoned all the way up to the top, and their big straw hats and their big beards. They were Amish. There was a whole group of Amish guys hiking up to bar camp. I waved and they didn't wave, so I kept waving. Finally, one of them gave me a half-hearted one. I guess I'm the English, and maybe they were on their Rumspringa, I don't know. But the thing is, it was they didn't seem like they fit on that trail. Everybody else is in their hiking shorts and backpacks and running shoes, and these guys were in work boots and work pants and button-up shirts and big old straw hats, but they were having fun, and so nobody gave this lost boy anything, and everyone knew that pigs were off limit to the Judeans. What was this guy doing? He was just making this kid a laughing stock. That's what this is about. He just wanted them to, he used this guy in the worst of times. Plus they didn't feed him. So he was going to let him die out there with the pigs. And you know what pigs will do to somebody if they die? They'll eat them. This guy didn't care. See, the husks were legumes, or they were seed pods of the carob tree. And today, carob is a chocolate substitute. And this carob tree can survive incredible drought. And at that time, its fruit or its seed pods were fed to typically ruminants or animals like cattle or goats or even pigs, and people would typically only eat it during times of war or famine until recently. Now carob's like a big deal, carob chips instead of chocolate chips and stuff. But that's sort of the history of those husks. And this kid wanted to fit into a society that didn't want him. And that he was willing, he wanted this so bad, he was willing to compromise his beliefs. He was willing to compromise his ethics. And he was willing to compromise his lifestyle in order to fit. It's just a sad, slow train wreck that nobody could see. I mean, his family had no idea where he was. They didn't know if he was dead or alive. How horrible would that be as a parent? Especially knowing that there was a drought in the land, or a famine. And this third portion of the story is directed at the religious guys, the tax stealers, and the people who have missed the mark or missed their calling. It's for the lost and the really lost. Verse 17, and when he came to himself, we've all had that experience at times. He said, how many hired servants of my father have bread enough and to spare, and I perish with hunger? When he came to himself, it means that he did a little soul searching. You ever done that? What am I doing? Why am I with this person? Why am I in this job? What have I done with my life? He stripped it all down and saw the foolish decisions he had made. He looked at himself through the eyes of his father. You ever had one of your family members' voice in your head? And you're like, and you don't want it for, sometimes you try to block it, but it's like, you know what you're doing doesn't fit. But you do it anyway because it's fun and dangerous. What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys. And he looked at himself through the eyes of his father. What would Daddy do? If you had a good father, this makes sense. If you didn't, there's somebody in your life that may have been this way. Isn't this what happens when people are just beginning to change? They're right at that cusp. They're right at the brink. They're ready to make a switch in their life. Happened to me. When they decide they're really ready to change. They're not a sheep. This time it's not a coin. It's not a sheep. That somebody has to go out and drag back. It's not a coin that you got to sweep a dirt floor and try to find the silly thing. Or a wedding ring in a garden. You see, this is real people. We're down one-on-one here, folks. This is free will against their will. 18, I will arise and go to my father, and will say unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. I am no more worthy to be called thy son. Make me as one of thy hired servants. Now he's planning. He's just planning here. He hasn't done anything. He's still with all the swine in this other country. To go back home after blowing it like this, would that take some humility? Oh, yeah. You better have a little bit of a thick skin, too, because you imagine what's going through his head. Okay, they're going to say this, and they're going to say this, and am I really going to be treated like a servant? It's difficult, but it's worth it, because he wasn't doing so good out there by himself. How far are you from home? Do you really fit where you are? Are you forcing yourself into somebody else's mold? These are questions that we should ask ourselves. Why do we do what we do? Why are we doing what we're doing? Where are we really going in this thing that we call life for a short little time that we're on this terrestrial globe? Verse 20, and he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. Here it says came to his father, which is a next logical step following coming to himself, like in verse 17. First he came to himself, then he came to his father. Typically, when you come to yourself, you're ready to come to the Father. And these next words show the love of a good father. See, the father never stopped looking for his son, but he didn't know where to look, really. His words are what followed that boy into that far land, even if his eyes couldn't see him. He always kept an eye out for that boy. He said he spied him out from a long distance. It doesn't say that he went and dragged the boy home like the lost sheep of the first example. This is different. This is people. Nor does it say he searched for him like that lost wedding gift. This example is all about the need for a human to come to the conclusion that it's now time to change. I'm ready. I'm ready to go home. I'm ready to go where I'm fit. I'm ready to fulfill my calling. I'm ready to be what I'm really designed to be. This is for any of us who are tired of being herded like sheep or allowing ourselves to be penned up like a hog. You see, we're free-ranging people. We're freelance purveyors of truth. We're meant to be 100% totally free people under nobody's thumb. We're designed to be free from the shackles of the self-righteous. It's time to head toward home, folks. It's time to head toward home. See, the dad spied the lost child while he was a long way off. The dad had compassion on him. See, compassion is sympathy from the deepest part of one's soul. It's that inner ache that never left. You think that dad ever forgot about his son? You think that woman who lost that ring in that garden ever think there was a day that went by where she didn't wonder when she was in that garden? See, the dad ran, and this word run means to flat out fly. Feet, don't fail me now. And the dad fell on his neck means to hug to the point of strangulation. He wasn't going to let go of this son. Wasn't going to let him go. And the dad kissed his lost boy. And it means that he kissed him and he kissed him and he kissed him, slobbered all over him. Come on, Dad. You can sort of picture this interchange here. And all the emotions of thinking you've lost somebody and then finding them compressed into one moment. That's what's communicated here. How would you feel? Some of you can understand this. If you've ever felt like you lost a child and then you see him again. 21. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and I am no more worthy to be called thy son. The kid genuinely knew he'd made a bad decision. And he knew he blew it. He didn't need anybody to tell him. He knew that he'd wasted part of his life. Might have taken years off of his life because of his decisions. Could have ended his life because of his decisions. But he was willing and ready to start again. He was willing and ready to start over. And he was willing and ready to start from the bottom. 22. But the father said to his servants, Bring forth the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. This kid had come back just barely clothed and no shoes. I mean, he had nothing. And bring hither the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they, this is him and the servants, began to be merry. See, the father would have none of the boy's self-deprecation. He knew there's going to be an adjustment period. He knew life would be a little bit different for a while, but this boy was going to get a good start again. He was going to get a restart. Don't we deserve another start? When we've messed something up in our life, I'll say, you deserve it. It's out there. Do you need a new start? Are you ready for it? Are you finally ready to let go of whatever has enslaved you and find out what home really means? Are you ready to have the Creator, the Father, the Eternal One, hug your neck and kiss you on the cheek? Are you ready for a new set of clothes, spiritually and physically and emotionally? Are you finally ready to party with the people who really love you and not try to force yourself onto some group of people that hate you and want to make sport of you? See, after this incredible journey, after 3 examples of something lost being reunited with the one who loved it, we come to the climax of this teaching. And this is going to tie it all together. Again, remember the audience. Who was he talking to? The Pharisees, the scribes, the tax collectors, and people who had lost their way. That's the audience. That's who this is to. And I think in some way we all fit into this. See, the Pharisees and scribes hated the way people flocked to Jesus. They hated the way he made people feel. They could, he didn't understand that people could actually be loved enough to start over again. They couldn't see that. They couldn't believe Jesus would actually talk to or eat with the thieving, tax collecting scum of society. They couldn't believe that anyone would hang out with somebody like those sinners who had rejected the same truths they had religiously kept since they were children. "25. Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. And he said unto him, and he said unto him, Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fatted calf, because he hath received him safe and sound. And the older brother came home from work, and he heard a fiesta going on back at the hacienda. And he snapped his fingers, and one of his hired hands told him what was going down. And his long-lost brother had gone from being dead and lost to being home and safe and sound. And that Papa San was treating him like the emperor. This was too much for this self-righteous brother to take. Just a wee bit too much. 28. And he was angry and would not go in. Can you picture that? A party going on, the brother, He's a grown adult, and he's like, I ain't going in there. He wouldn't go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. Now this father again goes out looking for the other lost son. He's a loving father. They're 2 different kids, totally. One's a party boy and one's self-righteous, but he loves them both. And that's the point of this whole thing. The older brother was so pissed that he was not willing to even join the party. The father once again went outside, found this boy, and stood next to the other side, his son, grabbed him, and he said, Come over here, boy, what's up? What is going on now? And he answered and said to his father, Lo, these many years I do serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment, yet thou never givest me a kid, goat, that I might make merry with my friends, even though they don't like to party. But as soon as thy son was come, which hath devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. I've been a good boy my whole life, Dad. I thought I was your favorite son. I did everything right. You never threw a party for me or my buddies. And the moment your whoremongering son of yours shows his face, you pull out all the stops. What's wrong with this picture? You detect a little bit of jealousy? You can picture it. We've all seen it in our own families, probably. Remember, this is Jesus protecting the lost who finally made it home from the really lost who don't know where home is. And the religious guys make the outside look good while they allow their hearts to rot within. 31, and he said to him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad, for this is thy brother that was dead, and he is alive again, and was lost, and is found. See, the dad who finally had his wild child son home, the day he'd been waiting for who knows how long. Imagine the worry and the heartache, and the kid just shows up. He was trying to bring home the message to this self-righteous son. See, Jesus is trying to bring home the message to these self-righteous children of God as well. The brother tried to separate himself by addressing his lost sibling as your son. But the dad said, your brother. We each play a different part in this thing called life. Do you know your part? And can you accept other people's parts? Or do they have to do it like you do it? How do you see yourself in this parable here? See, these three stories of lost and found are meant to be messages of joy. See, they rejoiced when the lost sheep was found. They all rejoiced when the lost coin had been located. And they rejoiced when the lost child had been reunited with his true family. See, what are you still looking for? Are you ready to rejoice? When you're at home in your own skin and not forcing yourself to fit with people who really don't care about you, then you're on the road home. See, everything that can be done has already been done for you to help guide you home. Not just to a place, but to a place of the heart. 3 records, 1 point. You are loved. You are wanted. Let it shine. You've been found. Let your light shine. You are exactly what this world needs right now. You are exactly what this world needs right now. Welcome home. God bless.